Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It's Monday, May the 12th, 2025, and today's topic will be drawing heads in perspective. Along with that is also drawing the figure in perspective, but I'll focus on the head, and there's a lot. I'll get it started. It's not that hard, but it's like not that easy either. But that's why I started with the model sheets. But yeah, we'll talk about all of that. Before we get started, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. So I'll start a 10-minute timer. So yeah, speaking of the model sheet, I did post it in the community section of the channel, and it's helpful. I'll just use it as a guide. You might want to leave the guidelines. You might want to have more guidelines. This is just an example. But yeah, I'll just use this. I'll be looking at this. And also, I was just warming up and doing some sketches. That's why I wanted to go ahead and draw heads in perspective and just kind of talk about kind of how it works, or like my approach to it. This is just one way of doing it. Also, like once you have a sketch, you can go over it and just do like a cleaner version like this. That's what today's video will be. It takes practice, obviously, but if you kind of have like an idea, then you'll know like what to practice. So if you want to be able to do something similar to this, again, there's just different ways. And sometimes like when you just kind of doodle, you'll come up with like a cool looking drawing. But yeah, just to kind of go off of what I'm doing here. So one, you might want to use a pencil to just draw some boxes. So like, now I'm going to use a pen, but just as an example, let's say that I just draw like a box, kind of like a rectangular kind of box. And I'm just going to use the model sheet, this. So I have 3 or 4 videos talking about how to draw this, but it's the same thing. So before skipping some of the steps, because you can skip some steps, but like you want to make sure like you understand like all the basics. So for example, how to draw a box in perspective, because I had started the model sheet right here, and then I decided to just make like a series on it. If you can understand what these lines represent, like that's like the first thing is to, as far as like the perspective. So first is like the proportion. Like this should become pretty second nature. But then next is like the perspective of it, or to draw it at like different angles, in other words. So you have this. And then at first it might be easier to just place. It's going to look flat, but just for practice, you might want to place like the oval shape. I mean, this could be applied to anything, but we're doing faces, and if you can learn to draw this, then you can kind of learn to draw anything. That's like the flattened version. Part of it is like the Loomis method is helpful because it helps with the sphere part of it. So if you do the curved line, which is what the Loomis method talks about, then you can get a little bit more of that. This is kind of a combo of like the Bridgman method, George Bridgman, and like the Loomis method. So anyway, and also like the way that I do it. So from here, like if the nose is right there, you can, this is kind of a more complicated, not complicated, but it's because I'm explaining it. And then like the mouth, for example, is more on a like a cylindrical curve. So that's why the Loomis method is helpful, because of the ball. But like sometimes that can be kind of confusing also, is what I'm getting at, just from my experience. But ultimately it's whatever like helps. So you can start to add like the curves to it, and it'll start to look. That's one way of carving out like the box shape, and it'll be in perspective. And then you can always clean it up. So an example, so that's why I advocate sketching. Don't be afraid to sketch it. And it just takes practice to be able to just draw it like if you see this, you can just draw the nose like this. Right. You can just skip some steps and just draw the face. Just depends on your mood. I mean, if you can pull off the drawing it this way, then that's fine. It's the same kind of difference. You could do a cleaned up version of it. And then you would just do like studies of facial features. Now in this kind of perspective, you're going to see like underneath stuff like the eyelids. It's going to be, that's why it's a little bit more complex, because you're going to see underneath all these forms, which again, it takes practice, and it also takes kind of this kind of thing, like you experiment with it. Also look at some photos, but instead of just copying like the shapes that you see in photos, see if you can construct it so you can understand like why it looks that way. So this is like the cleaner version of that. You can even have something like this, but like do a different type of face. You could do like a more feminine. Or just like more rounded. But it's not a bad thing to practice. Kind of like this. And just keep it kind of simple looking. So that's just off of that construction right there. So the principles are the same no matter what kind of face you're drawing. If we're talking about cartooning, which I mean that's kind of what I do, is cartooning. Like I like to do like a simplified sort of cartooned or like outlined version of it like this. A big part of cartooning is the style, which is to say like the character design. So once you kind of know like the design of the character, then so let's say like that looks kind of like a character, then you can just kind of draw it a little bit easier. So if I have this character look in perspective, so let's say like kind of looking down, if I know like the look of it. It's a little bit easier to just kind of like just draw sort of the shape that it's supposed to look like, or like it could look like. But obviously there's nothing wrong with sketching it. It just depends on how familiar you are with what you're drawing. So yeah, in this view, you would just see more of the, like the top of the head. Now I like to be sketchy about stuff because I might want to redraw it, and I would rather redraw something that looks sketchy than detailed. It's not fun to draw, like redraw detail is distracting. That's why honestly I can't copy like other people's works, because their finished work is too detailed, but that's usually how people start. But I'd rather see this. That's why I did like the model sheets and stuff, because it's easier to follow. So you can just skip like all the construction, but part of it is because if you have a look for a character, then it's easier to do this. And since we're cartooning anyway, it's not like, this is like a simplified version of like the head. Yeah, and everything is just kind of in perspective, basically. Like the construction of it would be something like if I just saw this, or you could start with the box, then it would be kind of like this. Like I would just fit this in. It just depends on how you want to do it. Like sometimes this is the better way of doing it, especially if there's a lot of sort of stuff you're figuring out. Now when you draw a box like this, you'd be surprised at how extreme that actually is. Like the for like the face, so like if this is the nose, a lot of times like the mouth and stuff gets pretty hidden in this kind of view right here, and it depends on the lighting. And yeah, you can just check pictures and you'll see like how like this kind of view is pretty extreme, like the box right here, the perspective. So if you want to, drawing the body is kind of its own thing too. Like, obviously the more stuff you add, the more complex it becomes, but it's just boxes at the end of the day. So hopefully you can see, you could just draw this without all the construction, or you can start with the construction, because sometimes that's like the main thing. Maybe there's like a background, like maybe you have to fit them in a background. Then you would maybe start with the construction, whatever works. But I think that'll be it for today. I mean, obviously this takes practice, and but that's like the basics of it. It's just like the boxes, and you can do like a cleaned up version like before you get into like all of this. So this has some perspective in it, but it's not as extreme. So like this has perspective. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. But that'll be it for today's daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.